Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of the Panel by Panel podcast, hosted by Parallel Panels. If you're new around here, the basic idea of this podcast is that every episode I take a well-known comic book story and I do my best to try and explain it to my friend Aaron, who is a comic book newcomer. If this is your first time listening to us, we are 4 episodes in. We have covered already Alan Moore's The Killing Joke, we have covered Mark Millar's Wolverine Old Man Logan, and Jason Aaron's God of Thunder in time for the release of Thor Love and Thunder. So if you want to check out our thoughts on the movie and the comic that largely inspired it, you can go check out that last episode. But today is a DC episode. It's a big one because we're doing our first proper Batman story. Batman is my favourite comic book character, whilst Aaron, on the other hand, is never really bought into any of the Batman hype, so I knew it was going to be an interesting one to do. If you are new around here, then this podcast is also available on Spotify. If you're listening on Spotify, it's also on YouTube. Whatever's easiest, we are going to hopefully put it on more platforms, but it depends what you guys want it on, really, just whatever makes it easier to listen to. But please do go subscribe and follow us and leave a like, leave a rating, all of that good stuff. It really helps. And follow us on social media. We are on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter and YouTube, all at Parallel Panels. And without further ado, this is Batman the Black Mirror.
Oh, is the Phase 6 stuff you mentioned the Avengers films?
Yeah,
where it's the Kang, the
Fantastic
Kang
Four
or something.
And then there's like a whole load of other things in the slate that aren't announced.
Do you think this Victor Von Doom is going to suck?
Oh,
I think
no.
he will.
No, I think they'll do it. I don't know if it'll be like amazing. I think people have like hyped it up to the point where they're like, cause you know, like obviously before Thanos, that was the big thing. There was like Marvel have no good villains in movies, and people were like, yeah, but wait until they get hold of Doom. I feel like it'll be overhyped.
You didn't like that funny fella in the first Captain America, Red Skull?
No, he was terrible.
What do you mean?
I thought that was going to be sick as well, because I love Hugo Weaving. So when he got cast, I was like, he's going to be amazing. He's going to be so important to the movies. And then he showed up in Endgame, didn't he? But he was like a ghost.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about the ghost at that point, so I was just like, why is he in a cape on a different planet? What a weird Red Skull reference.
Yeah. I'm also like, I'm sure they'll do it well, but like, I love Kang, because he's a dumb comic book villain. I don't know how well it's going to be as like he's the ultimate threat at the moment.
I didn't know anything about Thanos, but
Yeah.
I don't know anything
But
about
Thanos
Kang.
in comics is like the big bad, so like it makes sense for him to be like the big villain in an Avengers movie. And Kang does like fight the Avengers a lot, but like he's pretty dumb.
But it's like mostly cosmic stuff, right? In Phase 5. Which I saw literally specific things saying, like, something cosmic.
You know much, like, you know, like the Pimp My Ride meme, where it'd be like, oh, you say that you like this thing once, and then that's it, they turn your whole car into that. Have you seen how much Daredevil we're getting?
Yeah.
So he's in She-Hulk.
Yeah, he's at the end of She-Hulk, he's meant to be, isn't he?
He's in Echo, which is coming pretty soon.
Who's that?
She is a spin-off character from the Hawkeye series, which
brilliant.
Hawkeye series is pretty good. Echo, I don't know anything about. She's quite a new character, so I don't really know.
I'll take your word for it.
But Daredevil's going to be in that, and then we're getting 18 episode series.
Have you seen the in thing with the Daredevil thing? Have you seen, if you watch all of, is it Phase 3?
Mm-hmm.
All of Phase 4 now is about 10 hours more than the entirety of Phase 3. Is that not mad?
I
Don't
guess
get
with
me
the
wrong.
TV shows, right?
Yeah, TV shows are massive. But I still think Phase 3 slaps it out of the water.
Yeah, I'd say so far.
I was going to try and say something controversial to get something going, but no. That's not controversial.
No, that
Phase
that
4
is just
kind
true.
of sucks.
Yeah. Has there been? Yeah.
I watched it in the Moon Knight.
Oh yeah.
It's alright.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's alright.
Yeah, it's alright. They haven't announced any Moon Knight things. I don't know what's happening with that, but
Oscar, yeah. Is it Oscar Isaac? I like him as an actor. He was
Yeah, I
good
think he's really good.
Poe Dameron as well.
Yeah.
Which
He's just.
I don't know.
And he carries Moon Knight so much.
I mean, similar to how he carried a lot of the Star Wars stuff.
Yeah.
When he was on screen, you go, I care about this part. And everyone's favourite character from that. If it's not, at the end, Kylo Ren, you're kind of going, you know what, Poe Dameron's still pretty cool.
Yeah.
Apart from the line in the last one where, oh no, the Emperor's back. What do you mean? They must have gotten cloning facilities. Yeah, sorry. What happened to the whole don't clone Jedis? Nah, the midichlorians, they can finally clone. They finally learned. Yeah, of course they did. Yeah. I'm not going to get on a rant about Star Wars. What we got today, anyway?
So I already said that we're going to do a Batman episode. So we should talk about how the first episode we did was kind of a Batman episode of The Killing Joke, which was like the very first one that we did. So that's like the first comic that... Is that like the first comic book story you've known in full?
Yeah. I mean, I knew about it before we covered it. Because it was that big.
Yeah.
But after going through it, and that was probably like the first comic book I've read which isn't Watchmen.
Yeah. So what was like your, like, if you had to sum up what you thought of Killing Joke, like if someone came up to you and was like, I might read Killing Joke, what would you say?
I'd say it's like a must if you want to get into comic books. If you want to, if it's a great starting place, I'd say. Where I jumped into Watchmen, don't jump into Watchmen.
No.
That's a terrible idea. It took me weeks to get through that, and I was literally reading every night and going, what the hell? And I had to reread stuff.
Yeah.
But Killing Joke is simple.
It's
simple enough.
Yeah, man.
Don't get me wrong, you don't get much about Batman. It's not a Batman comic. I wouldn't count it as just a Joker comic.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's a perfect starting point. So, if anyone wants to, going back to that first episode, get Killing Joke.
Do you remember when I teased you with the young woman Jake thing for Old Man Logan?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you said to me at the end of that episode, like, do I have like a funny like riddle for each one? And I was like, nah, some of them I just can't think of. Because obviously originally this episode was meant to be after Old Man Logan, but because of Thor, we rejigged it, so we did that one.
Yeah, and I think the riddle for this one was it's a Batman comic with no Batman.
Yeah, because originally I was like, I'll try and do like a funny thing with all of the names and be like, oh, what's the opposite of this? And that's what the name is, right? So this book is called The Black Mirror. What's the opposite of a mirror? Because to me, my brain goes, well, mirror you can see yourself in. So the opposite would be something you can't see yourself in. But if I said to you, Aaron, the tease for the next episode is white wall, and then I told you it's Black Mirror, you'd be like, how am I supposed to get mirror from wall?
Yeah, you know what? I'll give you that one. Maybe
See?
Black Mirror you can't do, but I mean, yeah, I think some people would have got white wall.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Maybe I'm giving people too much credit.
So the tease I did give you that it has no Batman in it. I mean, you can see from the cover it has Batman.
Yeah,
on
Batman's right there.
Batman is in it, but the reason I was like, if people know the comic, they'll probably get what I mean. Other people have no idea. It's not Bruce Wayne as Batman. It's Dick Grayson, who is the first Robin. He takes over for a bit as Batman.
Does he
so
also
technically
turn
Batman
into
is in
Red
it.
Hood?
No, that's the second Robin.
Okay, alright. You know what? I'm not even going to try with this. Yeah.
There's a couple points where I'll explain a couple of the Robins because they're in this book, but I don't think Jason, who is Red Hood, I don't think he's in this.
So I want to tell you how much Batman I know. Right? And it's not canon. I only know Batman and Superman. Well, Superman I know from the crap movies. I think there's not even a good one, I'd argue. Batman, I only know Injustice. And Injustice 2, because I played them on easy mode first because I wanted to know the story, because the story of it's not bad. It's like a fun story. Yeah. That's all I know about Batman. That and the Tim Burton films.
So you know, in Injustice, can you play as Robin in Injustice? I don't think you can. You can play as Nightwing though.
Yeah, you play as
Nightwing is Dick Grayson. So he's Robin, and then when Batman wants to recruit a new Robin, he becomes Nightwing because he's like, I'm good enough to be my own thing. So he's Nightwing for ages, and then we'll get into like where you need to be in like continuity.
Why does he replace him? That's harsh.
I think it starts with like Dick Grayson wants to be his own thing. He doesn't just want to be Batman's sidekick. So Nightwing is Batman has the Bat family.
Okay, alright.
Nightwing is part of the Batgirl all of the Robins, Nightwing. So
Alfred.
I don't know, he doesn't count.
Can't forget Alfred.
So Nightwing is like still part of the team kind of thing, but he does his own solo stuff as well.
Have they ever done a Bat Grandpa comic
That's a good question. I
with
don't know.
Alfred? That would be sick.
There must be a continuity where Alfred takes over. I don't know.
Takes over. All right, I don't know.
He becomes Batman for a bit. I don't know if that's a thing, but I'd be surprised if it wasn't.
He was the first Batman, maybe.
When we speak about the continuity of like when this happens, there's a thing that I suppose they could kind of get it in through there. But yeah, as it says at the top of the book, New York Times bestseller and Amazon's best book of 2011. So this only came out in 2011, but it is still regarded as like a Batman classic. This is also the first Scott Snyder book we're doing, who I love Scott Snyder. He's a great writer. The artwork as well in this book by Jock. So there's 2 stories in this book. The first like chapter is the Black Mirror, and then the second part is nothing to do with the Black Mirror. So the fact that it's called the Black Mirror is really misleading. But so the art is split in 2. So Jock does the Black Mirror stuff, and Francesco Francavilla does the second.
That's a
stuff.
great name.
I know, right? Like you've got to be like an artist or something if your name's Francesco Francavilla.
I see IGN have also rated this as well.
Yeah.
I'd argue one of the most reputable companies about.
Yeah.
Shout out to IGN.
So this starts Scott Snyder's run on Batman, which he took over like 2010. You know how like when there's like a reboot of a movie, and so take like the new Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland,
Right.
and they were like, people already know that like how Spider-Man gets his powers, whatever, and who his parents are, who his grandparents are. Well, we don't need to explain that. We're just going to start here. That happens in comics a lot. DC do it a lot, like where they reboot everything. They have these big events called Crisis, and then after that it reboots, and then they basically pick and choose what they want to keep. So this book is really, really good, but there'll be a bunch of points where you'll be like, I wonder what they do with this, and the answer is nothing, because a few months after this book came out, they rebooted the universe. So Scott Snyder carried on writing, so he kept most of his ideas, but in terms of like themes that carry on, so like for example what I said about how Bruce Wayne isn't Batman, it reboots and he's Batman again. So like, you know, it's a really good book, but like in terms of like long term, it doesn't matter. It gets like restarted. Like,
That's a bit of a kick in the teeth, isn't it?
I guess so, but then they were like, because the Black Mirror did so well, they were like, we're going to reboot it, and instead of, they had this idea of like, you know, when they reboot it, they try and bring in new characters and stuff like that, like really refresh it, but because of how well this did, they were just like, we're going to reboot it, and like Batman is the star, because it just sells so well, you know, like, we can't, and the run was doing so well, people were loving Scott Snyder's work, so like, it just makes sense. So in terms of the continuity that leads to this book, there isn't a ton of stuff, but it is a bit weird. So the reason Bruce Wayne isn't Batman, he gets hit. Do you know who Darkseid is? He was in the Justice League movie, but he was only briefly in the like original cut.
Was he the one that was in?
He's in Injustice, I think. He looks like
he's definitely in Justice, but in the was he in Batman v Superman? Was that Darkseid as well?
No, that's Doomsday. He's like the big rock dude.
Yeah, I was just thinking Rockman.
Looks like a cave troll. Yeah,
Darkseid's just got bald head
and like glowy eyes. He's basically Thanos, bit DC.
He's the DC Thanos.
Pretty much.
Yikes.
He's like more powerful than Thanos, probably.
Way less cool.
Yeah, I think to be fair, the Marvel movies have made Thanos really cool, whereas before that he's not as cool.
Most of the time he's sitting in the Marvel movies.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
Like he's so well done that it's like cool.
Maybe they should do that Darkseid. Just get him to sit on stuff.
Yeah, he doesn't really do a lot of that. No, I guess not. Anyway, he hits Batman with a thing called the Omega Sanction, which is like his beam. And what he does is he sends Batman all the way back to the start of time.
Okay.
This was do you remember when we did the Killing Joke and I spoke about Alan Moore and how he had wizard beef with Grant Morrison?
Is this
Grant Morrison wrote that story, and Grant Morrison's ideas are like mental. Like,
is this the one that looks like
insane.
a magician or the one that looks like a wizard?
Magician.
Okay.
He's like the bald guy. Yeah. So basically then you had like a run of Batman where he was like I don't really know how it works, but he didn't like get old. and he came back to the past as Bruce Wayne, like the age he is, I think, and then he has to make it all the way back to the current day, right? So like it's like a stupid idea, but then you get some cool comics where you get Batman like throughout time, kind of thing.
It's like Batman playing Minecraft in a way. You just got to survive, you know.
Yeah,
he's playing survival.
He's basically just killing time to get back to the like point where he's at. So in this book, he is back, but he kind of gets back and he's like, I've been Batman for centuries. Like, I'm just gonna take some time out.
He's Batman for that entire time.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I said, I think he's the same age when he gets transported back, and he stays the same age.
That gives massive Assassin's Creed vibes.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
It's like
yeah, kind of.
I was
Yeah.
about to say he's a black assassin.
I mean, like, you could have said bat. That would have made more sense. But so he, again, this is why the continuity, like I have to tell you, but it really doesn't make any difference because they replace this straight away after. But Batman in this, Bruce Wayne rather, is there, but he's like, nah, like even though you've taken over and I'm back, I want you to carry on being Batman if that's cool, because I'm tired. I just need a break. And also he goes and sets up Batman Inc. You know what Batman Incorporated is? It's like his plan to set up like so that basically to like make the Bat family huge, and so that there's like Bat related.
So it's like
everywhere.
Talking about the boys earlier, but it's like his version of Vault.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's a good idea if you have like the Bat family instead of superheroes, I guess.
It makes sense, but like it's just like, you know, it doesn't come across brilliantly, especially for a character that's like a loner.
Before we actually get into it, you mentioned about different continuities. There's obviously DC will start up every now and then. Mm-hmm. Is there, with like myself, I'm now suddenly noticing I liked phase 1 to 3 of Marvel. I'm not really liking this one. Is there similar people with that with comic books? Like they go, oh yeah, I love the 2008 to 11 Batman, but as soon as it went after that, I'm just not it.
I guess, but then because it gets, by the time that they reboot it, things get so complicated because, like I said, they can pick and choose what they want to keep from continuity. So sometimes a character will meet a character and they know each other, and you're like, well, that doesn't make sense they know each other. But the writer has gone, I want them to know each other, so let's just pretend that they do know each other. Like, it gets really confusing as, like, in this universe that we're currently in, what exists from the past that I know and what doesn't, because they can just pick and choose what they want to keep and what they don't. So, for example, like, if they rebooted it now, they could say that Batman and Catwoman have never met. Right? But, like, you don't know that until they actually meet, and the writer can just go, do I want them to already know each other, or do I just want to start that fresh as well? So it gets real confusing. So I think, to be honest, when they reboot it, most people are on board, because it is, like, needed at that point. And because they end it with a big event, it's like, it's like Infinity War or Endgame. Like, these events change everything, and so it's like, it would get so confusing, and, like, it would get really difficult.
So you need to kind of like build again.
It's almost like, let's just start again, kind of thing. So it.
All right.
I wouldn't say. I'm sure there are people who are like, I don't like this new version. I liked that old version. I'm not going to read it anymore. But I think most people are kind of like, it keeps it fresh, you know.
Okay. All right.
I should also explain that. So Dick Grayson is Batman. He has a Robin. His Robin is Damian Wayne, who's Bruce Wayne's son. Damian Wayne is the kid of Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul, who's Ra's al Ghul's daughter.
I was about to say, he's Liam Neeson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a kid together who gets raised by Talia al Ghul in the League of Assassins. So he is like a ninja kid. Like, he's really, really young, but he is like, ever since he's been born, because he was born into the League of Assassins, he's like a killing machine. So when Batman and Talia al Ghul is like, kind of annoying, and so she's just like, here Bruce, here's this kid, I've trained him to be the ultimate assassin. And Bruce is like, what have you done? Because he can't take him anywhere because he just wants to kill people. But they kind of like train him, and he still goes a little bit crazy at times, but he's also like the Robins are usually just like not as good Batmen, and he has to like teach them how to be better at what he does, whereas Damian is like as good as Bruce in terms of like martial arts and stuff like that. Like, he is like a prodigy.
But when morals come in, that's where Batman's,
because he's been trained to like kill. Like, and how to do it as fast as possible and get away, kind of thing. Like, he's been trained as an assassin, so
Yikes.
I think that's all the continuity.
Doubt. But here we go.
So when it opens with the first story, which is the Black Mirror, like I said, when the art is just beautiful, like the art. I mean, every piece of art that we've done from like these comics has been insane. You know, it starts with kind of just to set the scene. There's this rich kid, and he's getting bullied. When you turn over the next page, you're going to be like, "What?" He's getting bullied, and he steals this like stuff from his parents. I'm not sure what he thinks it is, but he's getting bullied by these kids anyway. So he steals this stuff from their cabinet, and he takes it, and it turns out to be killer croc juice. So he turns into a giant crocodile man and bites the bully's arm off.
Okay.
So that's like, you're like instantly, obviously, like it's super grabbing, and instantly you're like, what is going on? I should also say that when they're doing this Batman run, they're not doing it as a DC title, they're doing it as a Detective Comics title, which is what Batman started as. So this story is very like, it's not as like actiony, it is more like detective-y and stuff like that. It's not, again, it's kind of like back, like
Yeah, I have
taking it
heard
back a little
that
bit.
he kind of goes between the two, right?
Yeah.
So some comics you'll have him just be like a madman kicking ass,
Yeah.
you know, like the films.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, he'll actually be a detective.
So that leads us into this new villain who's called the Dealer. And he's a really cool villain. They never do anything with him because the universe rebooted, which sucks. But his whole deal is he has auction houses, and he holds these auctions in like really macabre places. And it's for like messed up rich people who, you know, like the whole thing of rich people where like they'll go to like extremes just to get a kick, you know, just feel alive kind of thing. So he holds these like these creepy auctions of like just like creepy items. Usually they're related to villains. Like I said, the Killer Croc formula that kid took is from one of those like auctions, and he holds them in like creepy places. So it would be like an orphanage that burnt down or something, that like, or like, you know, stuff like that, like places you just wouldn't want to go.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to just be like the worst of the worst people, but they're like super rich and they all gather to go to these messed up auctions. It's kind of like, it's like Eyes Wide Shut, but they just want to buy creepy stuff. that's like the whole thing, really. So Dick Grayson, who is like, when Dick Grayson's Batman, it tends to be more detective-y anyway. They just, I'm not sure if it's just to do, like, they've just always gone that angle with him, but he finds this auction thing because of the Killer Croc formula. He manages to track it down, and he goes and finds the parents who are the members and stuff like that. And he finds it through this crime lab. There's this crime lab that's part of the story that Bruce built for the Gotham City Police Department, but they're almost like too proud to use it. So even though it's like state of the art and way better than anything they have, they're like, well, we don't need Batman's help, kind of thing.
And only the commissioner uses it.
Kind of,
Yeah,
like he'll just have Batman look into it, and I don't know why that keeps coming up, but it is something that they do. Bruce Wayne has been funding Batman. He comes out, you know, how do I put this? You know, the first Iron Man, when Tony Stark holds the press conference and reveals that he is Iron Man. Bruce Wayne schedules a press conference, and everyone thinks that he's going to say, they're like, oh my god, Bruce is going to say he's Batman. And he doesn't. He says that he's been funding Batman this whole time. So he's like an independent financer.
Yeah.
Like, just to like, I'm not entirely sure why he says it. I don't know. But so Dick Grayson has this invisible mask thing. I think they use it in Mission Impossible. It's like a thing that goes over your face that projects another face.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of thing. So it's just like a disguise, but it's like obviously like really, really good. So he pretends to be the parents that go to these auctions, and he shows up at this creepy auction where the dealer is. The dealer, when we meet him, is just like this old guy, and he says, when they go to this auction, he says that the room is full of a toxic chemical, and he does this really long monologue because they all have to wear gas masks when they go in. They get a gas mask and like a bidding panel, and the first item that is up for sale in this auction is a crowbar, Do you know what the relevance of the Joker crowbar is?
No, I have no idea.
So you'll see a lot of imagery of Joker and a crowbar. Usually it's got blood on it. Joker killed the second Robin, and he beat him to death with a crowbar.
Wow, okay.
It's pretty dark. So the first item they're selling is the crowbar. So obviously Dick Grayson is like, this is messed up. Like, he's instantly like traumatized. And it still has like blood on it and stuff. And the dealer reveals that he knew about the parents being found by Batman. And so obviously he knows which guy has taken... He knows which one is supposed to be the parents, so he knows who the intruder is. And he says that the toxic gas that the room is filled with is actually fear toxin, and the gas mask that he gave to the person who's impersonating the parents doesn't work. So instantly you get fear toxin kicking in for Dick Grayson, which kind of goes on throughout the story. He keeps getting it coming up and stuff like that. It's really difficult to get rid of.
That's the Scarecrow uses, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so again, it's like he has all these like villains objects and stuff like that. And Dick kind of, just like fights his way out sort of thing, but the fear toxin keeps getting to him, so it's pretty difficult. He gets pretty badly beat up in the process, and he ends up having to use the crowbar to get out. And so there's this like fight that goes on for a few pages, and like I said, he's getting beat up. And then when he wakes up, he's in the hospital, and his legs are gone. But it's still the fear toxin, because kind of Barbara Gordon kind of shakes him out of it, and he's like, "That was messed up."
She's disabled in this as well.
Yeah, she is. Like I said,
so
some
is
things they keep
from Killing Joke.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't think they would have repeated it. They probably just had her disabled like from the start, kind of thing, from whenever they rebooted it. So Dick is instantly like, well, I need to catch the dealer because he's going to fly. He doesn't just do it in Gotham, he goes all over the place. So he's like, well, I need to catch him. So he gets to his plane that the dealer's taken off from, like just as he's about to get away, and he manages to just yeet all of the cool stuff that the dealer's been collecting out of the plane. Yeah, he has like a Batman Iron Man suit that flies. Because, why not? And as he does it, the dealer takes Man-Bat formula. Do you know Man-Bat?
I have no idea who Man-Bat is.
Oh, he's a giant
he
bat.
Looks so, yeah, I mean, why don't you just call it Big Bat? I guess
Big Bat.
You're laughing at Big Bat, but you didn't laugh at Man-Bat.
Wow, that's cool.
Man-Bat. Okay, alright. But Man-Bat does look cool.
He doesn't look quite like that. He looks more like a bat. Like, that's very, like... that looks like a monster bat. Whereas Man-Bat is just like a really big bat.
It's more like a werewolf than he does a bat.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds dumb, but like the actual Man-Bat is just like a big furry bat. I mean, he is scary as well, but not quite like that. So they fight. They have this fight on like just outside of the plane and stuff, and Dick wins. And the dealer is like maybe dead or something. He just kind of floats away and stuff. And he's a pretty cool character. So this is going to be like a shock considering the book is called The Black Mirror. That's kind of where The Black Mirror ends. Like, the dealer, I think, is a really cool villain that they could have done a lot with. And I'm sure Scott Snyder had plans for him to come back. But because they rebooted everything, it was like, we got to start fresh.
I mean, looking at him, he was pretty cool looking.
It's a cool idea.
And it's a really good, really
I think
good
it would
idea.
work really well in like a movie. Like if they carry on doing the Batman movies they're doing now with Robert Pattinson.
If they're doing the
like
creepy
way down the
ones,
line.
yeah.
And like then he comes back and he's got like some of Riddler's stuff from the first movie and stuff like that. Could be really, really cool.
Because I imagine it's going to go down the Joker route next, right? Film wise.
I don't think the plan is to do Joker next as like the main villain.
Who's going to be the main villain?
Matt Reeves has talked about how he really wants to do Mr. Freeze, which I don't know how you do Mr. Freeze in that universe, because that universe is super serious, right? Like Riddler is like a psychopath.
I
serial
mean,
killer
you say
dude.
that, but like they did Bane seriously to a point.
I guess.
And I mean, the last time you saw him was he was big green man who loved poison ivy.
Yeah, but Bane is like you just take a Tom Hardy and put him in a mask.
It would be nice to see like like a genuine movie representation of either Harley Quinn or Poison Ivy, because obviously there's the animation. The animations, obviously, as we mentioned previously, DC carry their stuff with animation. They're like amazing at it, where Marvel kind of fall off a bit.
Yeah.
But DC's animation, they've literally got a thing where it's only Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn. It's a little bit jokey.
Yeah.
So they could bring one of them.
Yeah.
But how would they do that, I guess?
Yeah, I don't know.
You say that, but they made Riddler like an actual psychopath instead of Jim Carrey.
I think they're going to do Court of the Owls, which is a Scott Snyder book, which we will do at some point, because I adore that
I've heard
book.
of Court of the Owls.
That book is incredible. This is really, really good, the Black Mirror, but he does Court of the Owls right after this as the first book of the DC
Like a
relaunch,
series
and
kind of
it's
thing.
like incredible. But yeah, so that's kind of the end of the Black Mirror. So
Right, I hope you have reason to think that.
the rest of the book is about James Gordon Jr. Who do you remember in the you see him in The Dark Knight, like Jim Gordon's little kid.
Yeah.
Who do you remember in The Dark Knight, right at the end, when it's like Jim Gordon, Two-Face and Batman, and they have that little like showdown kind of thing, and Two-Face captures Jim Gordon Jr.'s son, and he like that's how he threatens them, because he's like, I'm gonna shoot your son, I'm gonna give him heads or tails.
It's in like the half-built building, right?
Yeah. And we haven't seen Jim Gordon Jr. since Batman Year One, which is a book by Frank Miller, which is basically like, you know, the Robert Pattinson movie we got. That's basically Batman Year One, but like even earlier. It's like him learning how to be Batman and kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like an origin, but it's not Batman Begins. He doesn't go off and train in the mountains. It's just like him. It's like him, and it's the crime families in Gotham and him trying to deal with that. And Jim Gordon Jr. in that gets held over a bridge, and like because they threaten to kill him, and Batman has to save him. So I guess Scott Snyder was like, there's an interesting thing I could do there, where he's like traumatized by that and he becomes a crazy person. So I'm going to bring this character back that no one has read anything about in ages. This is where the art changes and it goes like, it looks like animation almost, you know what I mean? Like the style is like crazy.
The vibes it gives me is like the colours at Sin City.
Yeah, like if Sin City wasn't black or white, it was
blue and
brought in,
white.
like,
If it was
blue
like
and oranges.
Blue and black instead.
Yeah. So yeah, Scott Snyder's just like, hey, remember that character that you haven't seen in ages? Here he is. And Jim Gordon Jr. as a kid is like, you know, in a movie where there's like a kid that you know is going to turn out to be a psycho, and it's just like all the tropes, you know, like if you insult him, he takes it like super personal, even if it's just like a little like remark or something. He'll remember it for the rest of his life. Like, he's super quiet, and his family are like, he's not really like other kids. Like, it's just like all the tropes of like creepy kid who turns out to be an actual psychopath. So, apart from like some origin stuff with Jim Gordon Jr., just to like remind you who the character is, it starts with some birds getting released. And Barbara sees Jim Gordon Jr. on some he's been missing from Gotham for ages. And she sees him on some CCTV. She kind of joins the dots and is like, I bet he released the birds. I don't know why. I don't know why that's like psychopath behavior, but you know, whatever. I guess he released the birds. And they're like, oh man, Jim Gordon Jr. is back in town. And Barbara says to her dad, like, don't trust him. He's a crazy person, and he killed my friend. So Barbara doesn't trust Jim Gordon Jr. because when they were kids, they all went camping, and Barbara's friend said some like insult to Jim Gordon Jr. and then she goes missing. And she's like 100% that in her, that she saw Jim Gordon Jr. carrying this little like necklace, which was her friend's necklace, and she's like confident she saw him carrying it around one day. In present day, the kind of thing that was put out was that there was a child murderer in the area at the time, and Commissioner Gordon, in current like time, we flash forward to like now, he finds the child murderer that was supposedly out and loose at the time, and he kind of admits to the fact that he followed the Gordon family to where they were on holiday because he wanted revenge, and that he was going to kill Jim Gordon Jr. But when he went to kidnap him, Jim Gordon Jr. just like gave him a look and said that he knows who he is, and it gave the killer like chills, and he couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, there's a lot of things that this book does where it's like, again, it's like the tropes of a serial killer. So it's like little things where you think it's gonna, it's like, I'm trying to think of an example. You know, like how in thrillers, usually they'll have one character who they like really make it obvious that it's him, but it's so obvious that it's not, you know, where it's like, it's definitely him because he's got like motivation and like, you know, he was late this one time and stuff like that. And then it's not him because that would be too obvious. They do that with Jim Gordon Jr. Like, so they find out that he didn't release the birds and stuff like that. The birds. I don't know why that's such a
Why's
big
the
part.
bird so big?
So he goes to see his dad in this diner, and like his dad says something about his dad's like thinking for a second and ignoring him, and then he's like, "Wait, where's the waitress gone?" And Jim Gordon Jr. is like, "Oh, I killed her and left her in the bathroom." And then like there's like a pause, and then he's like, "I'm joking. Like I'm fine now." So it's like constant little things where you're like, "Oh my god, he is crazy," and then it's like, "No, not really." Like when he leaves this little conversation with his dad, there's like water flooding out of the bathroom, so Commissioner Gordon sees it and like runs over and opens it, and it's just like the tap's flooded or stuff like that. So it's like little things where you're like, this is going to be the point where they find out he's a psycho, and then they swerve it at the last second to be like, he's got all the signs of it, but he's not proven it yet. And you get like, there's some flashbacks of him being just like a creepy kid. Like he never cried as a baby. They find him and he's like butchered a bird because he wanted to find out where it keeps its eggs. He dressed as Joker for Halloween, which I've just remembered, yeah, in this continuity, Killing Joke happened. So like he comes out dressed as Joker and Barbara's like traumatized.
That's messed up.
He's like, I love the Joker.
Oh.
So when he speaks to his dad in the diner, he says to him like, yeah, I was a pretty messed up kid, but I've been on medication. I'm back in Gotham. And he's like, the reason I'm back is I want to get a job working in mental health at Arkham because it's helped me, and I just want you to... He's like, I don't want anything from you, Dad. I just want you to put in a good word with the people at Arkham and just say, I want to work for them and stuff like that. So Dick Grayson bumps into Jim Gordon Jr. And I say bumps into him, he's like spying on him kind of thing because he knows he's back in town, and the Gordons are like constantly under threat in like every Batman book, so he's just keeping an eye on them. And Scott Snyder kind of like goes back and adds in a bunch of history where they knew each other. They kind of like grew up together. They're like the same age. I think they're supposed to be like young 20s, I think, ish.
Okay.
And so yeah, they grew up together. And he's like, hey Jim, I just want to say like, oh, you're doing really well. And he's got the job working at this clinic in Arkham now. And he's like, oh yeah, it's going. He's like, wow, you've really turned your life around. Well done. And Jim Gordon Jr. is straight away just like, yeah, I know your dad. I know that my dad told you to spy on me. So he's like, oh, okay. And I don't know, this bit in the comic we're going to get to, because there's, you know how I said there's 2 stories? There's 3 stories, but the third one is like totally irrelevant. So I'll explain what happens in the third story in a minute, because it really isn't important and it doesn't go anywhere. But they talk about, I want to try and find it because the page is like incredible. See if you can get to the part where he meets Jim Gordon Jr. and they're just like chatting. So this is him. This is the story I told you about the key ring. This is all of that explained. Again, just Jim Gordon Jr. being creepy. I guess it's in this issue. We'll get to all this killer whale stuff. Because, like I said, there's a lot of it, and none of it is important. I guess I'll explain that plot, and then we'll do the Jim Gordon Jr. stuff.
There's a lot of killer whale stuff.
Yeah, so like I said, it doesn't really matter, because they scrapped the continuity. So there's a woman called Sonia Branch. She works in an office, and when she gets to work, there's a dead killer whale in the lift. And inside the whale is her secretary? I don't know why I couldn't say that the first time. This is like Jim Gordon Jr. stuff that we're getting to. So they use the crime lab that they built, and the whale belongs to a villain called Tiger Shark.
I think I know Tiger Shark.
Yeah, because he's quite a new villain, so like they use him in a lot of things because he's just like a generic villain. He doesn't talk,
Was he in?
That's like his gimmick.
Was he in? This is gonna sound really fucking dumb. Was he in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2? No, he wasn't, because it's DC. There you go.
Yeah.
That's all done. I think I fought as Tiger Shark in Injustice. Actually, that's why I know him.
Yeah, I'm sure he was probably in it or something. He's definitely. I think he's been in some of the Arkham games.
Why would you own a whale if you're a shark?
He's not a shark. He's a dude. He calls himself Tiger Shark. He likes sea creatures. I don't know. That's his gimmick.
He's like bad Aquaman.
We haven't even got to like the dumbest gimmick villain yet. There's another one that's hilarious. But yeah, Tiger Shark, he doesn't speak, so he has like people speak for him. So they say, "Oh, Tiger Shark wants you to know this," and then if one of them says the wrong thing, he just kills them and gets someone else to do it, because they don't actually know what he wants to say, kind of thing. So Sonia Branch, the woman who had the killer whale show up in her office, her actual name is Sonia Zuko. Her dad, Tony Zuko, is the guy who murdered the Grayson family. How well do you know the movie Batman Forever with Jim Carrey as the Riddler?
Not very well. I just remember Jim Carrey.
The origin of the first Robin, Dick Grayson, is that he used to work in a circus, and his family are the Flying Graysons, and they're like trapeze artists.
Right.
And then one day they get shot when they're performing. I can't remember why. But anyway, Tony Zuko was this crime boss, and he's the one who got them killed. And this is his daughter. So obviously Dick Grayson has like a really personal relation to this, because he tried to find Tony Zuko for ages and kill him. So the mob are trying to like threaten Sonia into working with them, because she's like a really well-off businesswoman, and they're like, "We can work with you," but they're like trying to threaten her. And Dick Grayson's like, "I'm gonna help you because you're hot." So one of the guys threatening her, I love this character, is a guy called the Roadrunner.
Yo.
So he has two parts, just like how Tiger Shark likes fish and doesn't talk. The Roadrunner has two gimmicks. He doesn't like pizza. Oh, that's such a niche reference.
That's a Gloucester reference there. Shout out to Roadrunner Pizzas, by the way. Two shout-outs. IGN and Roadrunner. Let's go.
So the Roadrunner, his two gimmicks, the reason he's the Roadrunner, he sells cars.
Fair enough.
And, this is the one you're not going to expect, he's got robot legs, so he's super fast.
Okay, right. I thought you were going to say
so he's the Roadrunner.
I thought you were going to say likes jogging, but he robot legs.
No.
Robot legs?
I say robot legs. It's kind of like the ones that they have in like the Paralympic like running race. It's like blades.
Legs.
They're kind of like blades.
That's not robot legs. I imagine there's so many people at the
They're
moment.
probably more advanced.
No way.
No, but he's like super fast. I'm not talking he can like
Oscar
run
Pistorius fast.
No. Like superhuman fast.
Faster than Oscar Pistorius?
Yeah.
Do you understand how fast that man was?
Yeah, but this is a comic. He's way faster than him.
Then Oscar Pistorius, that's mad.
Batman goes after him. They have a fight. They have a bit of a race. And he's like, I don't know who this Sonya person is. And it kind of comes unraveled that she made it up to send Batman after these people to get rid of them, because they're actually, it's the opposite way around. She's threatening them. So, because Dick Grayson is kind of like, I want to believe you that like you're good and that your family are just bad, the rest of your family, and then it's like, it's like the whole like apple doesn't fall far from the tree kind of dynamic where like, nah, she was tricking him the whole time. She just wanted Batman to take out these people for her. He goes and fights Tiger Shark, who captures him and like hangs him over a killer whale or a shark or something like that. It's like a Bond scene where he has to get out in time. I don't know. Again, it's just like cool stuff that happens. And Dick Grayson goes to confront Sonya, who is like getting out of a pool. And again, he's like, "You're hot, but why do you have to be evil?" And he's like, "I see through what you're doing," kind of thing. But she's like, "Well, good luck with proving anything, though." And he's like, "Yeah, good point." So he's just kind of, I think it would have gone somewhere if, I said Zack Snyder. If Scott Snyder had been able to do more with Dick Grayson, it would have come up as like a thing of him not trusting, of him being too trusting kind of thing, maybe. That's where that's going. But because they rebooted it, he's not Batman anymore in like a couple of months, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So that's that storyline. Going back to Jim Gordon Jr. When he meets Dick Grayson in the street. They talk about this bully that they used to know, and Jim is like, "Oh yeah, he's nice as can be now. I bumped into him the other day. It's funny the way that people just take some time to grow, you know." And Dick says that he has to leave, and Jim goes into this random apartment in the cellar, and he's like talking. He's like going down the stairs, and as he's talking to himself, he's like, "Isn't that funny? Me and your old pal Dick Grayson just met." And then at the bottom of the stairs of this cellar is the bully, chained up and missing a jaw.
Right.
So it finally is revealed that, like, after teasing it for ages, Jim Gordon Jr. is back, but he is still a psycho, and he is legitimately a psycho this time. His kind of like reason for coming back is that he, in his mind, his medication that made his emotions like a bit number made him weaker, and that because it made him, I say it made him more numb, it makes him have a bit more empathy for people. And he doesn't want that. He sees that as weakness. And so he's like, he messes with his own medication and basically reverses it. So his medication makes him crazier.
The thing is, you hear this from villains of some sort, and if anything, you just have to get more impressed by. It's hard to hate a villain if he's managed to reverse his meds to make him crazier instead of the other way around.
Yeah. And you know the whole thing, he wanted a job at Arkham because he wanted to work with like the medical facilities and stuff there.
Did he want to meet his idol by any chance?
No. Oh. You know how he was able to reverse his medication?
Oh, don't say he gave it to them, man.
It's worse. He wants to put it in the water.
Oh, right.
And make babies crazy.
That's a plan. Why would you need to go to...
Is it that he wants to put it in the water? I'm not sure what he wants to put it into. He wants to put it into something.
Why would he go to the mental asylum to put it in the water?
I guess Arkham... It's... I think it's more that he's working in like Gotham's lab kind of thing, and so it's more just to do with medication,
like
I assume.
Mass produced kind of thing, right?
Yeah, because Arkham obviously is like the mental state, but then I assume they also deal with just like standard medication and stuff like that. So that's like his overall plan is he wants to make babies crazy because he thinks that people are better like that. Speaking of Arkham, Joker escapes. He always does. He's on the back of the book, if you didn't notice, because it's a cool piece of art. He's barely in the book, but you know, you put Joker on the back, people are going to buy it, and the piece of art's pretty cool. So he gives some people some Joker smiles, as you can see. It's really cool artwork, but like, you know, they're instantly like, okay, we need to protect the Gordons because when Joker escapes, he always goes after the Gordons. So Commissioner Gordon goes to his son's apartment and he sees that there's a box full of keychains, and all of the keychains are the people he's murdered, and on the top of the box is the one that his sister's friend used to have, which you see in that like end of the thing. That's the little back keyring. Of course it's a back keyring, you know. That's the little keyring. The creepy woman in the bathtub, that is Commissioner Gordon's old wife, Jim Gordon Jr.'s mum.
Oh, right.
Because he calls his ex-wife and is like, Joker is out. Joker always comes after us. I'm sending hotel security to you now, just in case. And she's like, hang on, there's somebody at the door. They must be the security. And it's not.
Crazy.
She's all messed up in the bath with a crazy Joker smile. So Dick Grayson goes after Joker, and he finds him in this underground chamber. And Joker is instantly like, you're not my bat. He says, you smell like feathers, little bird. And he's like, you're not a bat at all. And they have a little fight, and Joker admits that it wasn't him that did anything to the Gordons, and that he doesn't want any trouble. He's waiting for his Batman to come back. He doesn't want to fight a fake Batman kind of thing. Whilst this is going on, Commissioner Gordon gives Barbara one of Jim Gordon Jr.'s pills that he takes from the apartment and gives it to Barbara to analyse. And she's like, this is like whack medication. He's done something crazy to this. So Gordon is like, okay, I believe you. Jim Gordon Jr. is not sane.
It took that long.
He wants to believe him, I guess.
Right, he took a guy's jaw off.
Yeah, but he didn't know that, you know.
Okay.
So Barbara Gordon, sorry, not Barbara Gordon. Barbara Gordon is also the name of the mum, the ex-wife. It's confusing.
Okay.
She tells Jim Gordon that it wasn't Joker and that it was actually Jim Gordon Jr. that attacked her. And then as that happens, he shows up where Barbara is and he attacks Barbara as well. And he's kind of like, you're the only one who knew that what I actually was, which like at the time was kind of fun, but then you started to get a bit too close to it. Like Barbara tells this story about how she knew that he was a psycho because he stabbed a bus driver once who kept making fun of him. And he stabbed this bus driver in a place where if you stitched one of the wounds, it would pull the other stitches open. So like he's like messed up, but like really, really smart and like sadistic. Like you would have seen then when Barbara sat in the wheelchair, he's stabbed her in the legs in major arteries. So like if she pulls any of those out, she'll bleed to death like instantly. So like he's real messed up. He talks about how when he was a teenager, he was put in Arkham for a few days because they were like, this is getting out of hand. We need to, just contain him for a few days. And he happened to be a few cells down from the Joker. And they talked an awful lot about Barbara Gordon and his dad, obviously, because the Joker's obsessed with the Gordons. And, that probably didn't help in him being crazy, I don't know. Arkham is the worst run place in the history of mental asylums.
It's not the greatest mental asylum, is it? That gives
just this kid who's like he's a bit creepy. He keeps murdering animals and stuff like that just to find out more about them. He's a few blocks down from the Joker? Nah, don't worry about it.
That gives a few vibes of the ending of the Batman, though.
Right. Yeah, when they put him next to
Riddle's next to Joker, and you're like, oh, so yeah. Maybe they took it off this in a bit.
Yeah, so Jim Gordon Jr. calls Dick Grayson, and he tells Dick Grayson that he knows he's Batman because he saw a video of Batman smiling on the TV, like a news report, and he knows that smile because they grew up together. And the reason he came back to Gotham is actually because he hates Dick Grayson, because Dick Grayson is like the opposite to him. Dick Grayson cares. I guess that's kind of where the Tiger Shark little story comes in. Dick Grayson cares too much. That's almost his downfall. Jim Gordon Jr. on the other hand thinks caring is cringe. So he's like, I hate you.
Caring is cringe. They
should
have that on a shirt.
That should be on the book. And he doesn't want to feel emotion anymore because he thinks he's better off without it. So he saw Batman on the TV, realised it was Dick Grayson and was like, I'm going to come back. So Barbara pulls the knife out of one of her legs and stabs Jim Gordon Jr. in the eye. And then Batman shows up and beats him up. He gets away. And he's at the bridge. Well, I don't know if it's the bridge where he was held over when he was a kid, but it's a bridge, just like to symbolise it. And his dad is like, you need to stop. Putting it lightly. And obviously, it's the same dynamic where he's like, I know you're crazy, but you're my son. And so he shoots him in the leg, and his son nearly falls. But he can't, even though he knows he's past saving, he can't let him go. So he has to grab him and save him from falling off this bridge. And Gordon's like, well, what a week, eh? My son's back. Turns out to be a psycho. And then the very last bit of art in the book is a baby with a crazed stare with like no emotion in its eyes. So maybe he got his wish.
Oh, that would have been cool to just jump with. But I guess we will never know.
No.
We will never know. I mean, yeah, the artwork in it is mad.
Yeah, I love the first like the Black Mirror stuff is like just really cool Batman stuff, but the second half stuff is like so unique and like crazy. Like I think it's the art for the second part is so perfect for like the like kind
the tone
of, like,
of
unsettling
it, kind of thing, yeah.
Thriller kind of thing. So what do you think of the? I don't know why it's called the Black Mirror. Obviously, the Black Mirror is the start of it, so it would have started out life as Black Mirror, kind of like when we did Thor: God of Thunder, and it's like Thor and the God Butcher, but then it's actually God Bomb. It's like the second part. But, it's all under that.
Oh, God Bomb. Sorry, I forgot about God Bomb. Yeah, to be honest, as you mentioned, the start of it's really good. It's the first story, really, and then it just feels like in a sense it could be 3 separate books.
Yeah,
but I don't know, man. The dealer did seem like a really cool villain, and I'm just as bummed out as you are to see it.
Like Sonya Zuko never shows up again.
No. Does Tony Zuko ever get mentioned again?
Tony Zuko is kind of like, he's like a Batman character who isn't like, obviously you don't tend to see him unless it's like a flashback or anything like that. But he comes up every now and then just because he's related to Dick Grayson. I'm sure that like Dick Grayson comics have a lot more of him in, but I don't. You know what we were saying about like spin-offs and stuff? I don't read Dick Grayson solo books. He shows up in Batman books. That's fine for me. I don't need to read Nightwing solo stuff, but
I think the first half is it's not that dark. I say it's very detective, but it's not too dark, and then the last half of it is dark.
I don't know if there's any Batman book that goes into like psycho stuff.
It's not as much of as a complete tonal shift, but you're reading it, then you see the blood on the crowbar, which the second Robin, you're like, oh, that's a little bit rough. Yeah. And then you literally go into the next story, and then bingo, Commissioner Gordon's son is a literal psychopath. And you're like, oh, okay, all right. Yeah. All right, there we go. We'll carry on with this then.
Yeah. I think the first part is like a pretty cool story that could go a lot more places. They could do so much more with that. And then the second part is the reason that the book is like loved so much. Like the first part is like kind of cool, but it is the second part with all the Jim Gordon Jr. stuff, which is like, the reason that it did so well and why people love it.
Yeah, as you mentioned, but I'm kind of looking forward to more Scott Snyder stuff.
Oh man, it gets
because if that's just his first one,
I mean, I think most people probably have this on like a similar scale to Court of the Owls. I think Court of the Owls is a lot better, but
I'd say I've heard of Court of the Owls. I haven't heard of this, but I think Court of Owls is spoken about more. Yeah,
it also has like an iconic villain with the Court of the Owls, so it makes sense. Like it comes up a lot more than
that Owl Man.
No, it's just the Court of the Owls.
Oh, they're an entire being.
Yeah, there's a bunch of dudes.
Bunch of dudes.
and
a bunch of dudes.
And women, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying to think. What are we doing? What are we doing next?
Should be a Marvel one, right?
Yeah.
Unless you've absolutely skedaddled it again.
Yeah. Oh, whatever, man. Well, we had to pause it because I had to look up what we're doing next. Because the running order's all wrong. I've still got in my running order that we're doing a DC comic for the next one, but we just did a DC one because of the Thor thing. So yeah, we're doing Marvel next. We can go 2 different routes with this. I'm actually going to give you a choice.
Oh God! All right.
Which I've already got the notes for both of these, and I read them quite recently, so I can do either one. Usually I wouldn't give you a choice, but I can do both. So originally, I was going to do a Spider-Man book, because, I'm trying to make sure that we cover, because I know what I like. I don't want to end up, we just do a Batman episode once every month and stuff like that. So I'm trying to, cover all of the big kind of, points in comics. So I was like, we got to do a Spider-Man book. So we'll do a Spider-Man one. And I obviously, because I was like, well, what Spider-Man book do I want to read? I obviously picked one of the darkest Spider-Man stories there is.
Mysterio.
No Mysterio. But a villain that's not too far off, I guess, in popularity. But I'm not going to tell you it. Can I tell you anything? No, it's a really dark Spider-Man book. There's a lot of spiders in it.
Spiders in Spider-Man.
I just realised how not super just regular spiders.
Watch out, guys! Spiders in Spider-Man.
I didn't even click how dumb that is until I said it. But it'll make sense when we do the book. There's a lot of regular spiders in it, and they're not related to Spider-Man. Whatever.
The spiders. All right, you're throwing me off.
Second book. We haven't done an event one yet, an event comic. Where multiple heroes all in the same book, right? Well, I suppose we did. We did Old Man Logan, but it's a Wolverine book. It's literally called Wolverine Old Man Logan, right? We haven't done a big event book with like big complication. Well, not complications, but big. What's the word? Big implications for the rest of stuff.
So what first one are you thinking?
So for Marvel, do I just tell you what it is, or is there like a hint I can give? It's very relevant in it kind of isn't, but it is, but it isn't.
Oh, this last 5 minutes.
It's really important to some movies, some Marvel movies, but it's important in the way that Old Man Logan was to the movie Logan, like where it's like based on, but they change a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so they've taken the kind of like sculpture of that character, but then just placed him somewhere
But
else.
it's a big event book. It's one of the biggest of those Marvel events.
Avengers.
It involves the Avengers, but it also involves like way more stuff. And what can I give you?
Avengers versus Fantastic Four.
It involves a type of housing with a big letter on it. And that is all I can give you.
What
that gives you
What
nothing.
does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. There's your clue, guys. If you get it, please.
I'll give you a name as well. It involves a character called Magnus.
The only Magnus I know is Magnus the Red. From Warhammer.
Yeah, no.
So,
There
I
you
can't
go.
imagine...
So what do you want to do? Do you want to do a big event, or do you want to do small Spider-Man story? Like, the Spider-Man story is not super complicated. It's really short.
Are there
It's a really
any...
cool one.
Are there any like big event DCs?
Mm-hmm. Loads. The Crisis events that I said about, they get super complicated.
Are we planning on doing one soon?
Yeah, I don't know what the first big DC event that we're going to do is, because the DC ones, like I said, they're super confusing.
I think we should do our first event.
Yeah, we should probably
See
do
how
an
it
event.
goes. Obviously, it's going to be a big one with a building with a big letter on it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, you think it's pretty good?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Yeah.
This is when next week happens. Well, 2 weeks happens, and I'm fuming again.
No,
Exactly
I
like
don't
the
think you will be. I
Logan-
haven't like
Logan
tricked
thing.
you in any way. No, nothing like the Logan one. That's cheating.